Story 1. When my feet are dirty from walking around barefoot and I feel small crumbs on them. Story 2. Drawing blood. I think there's a phobia associated with it, and I don't like it. I freak out just thinking about getting my blood drawn. It makes me want to fold my arms to cover my veins, especially my own blood rather than someone else's. However, I still don't like to see someone else getting a needle inserted either, even on television. I have zero problems with blood in general, just the needle in the vein part. Seeing drug use involving needles in veins in movies also bothers me. When I go to get blood drawn, I have to look away and stay very still so I don't make the process take any longer. I get sweaty, and I'm sure my heart rate is very high when it's happening. I remember in middle school, I once asked the doctor to punch me in the nose to get blood instead of using a needle. He didn't seem to think that was a viable option. Story 3. Wrists where you feel the pulse. Having a hard time typing it. Story 4. Sniffing. I feel like handing out tissues to random people and saying, "Blow your nose, please." I hate it so much. Story 5. When people add water to mayonnaise or other sauces to get all of it out, it makes me gag. Before you say, "I must not have grown up poor," I did. That's how I know I find it revolting. Story 6. Hair when it is not attached to a head. Stray hairs on the floor, hairballs, hair in the shower drain. Story 7. Microfiber cloths, like the inexpensive ones used for drying cars, can snag on your hands and feel unpleasant, especially if you have even slightly dry skin. Story 8. Raw poultry. I hate touching it, and when I cook it at home, I have to deep clean the whole kitchen afterward. Story 9. Absolutely terrified of deep frying food. I know how to do it safely, but I still hate it. Story 10. Claymation movies make me feel queasy. Puppets are a close second, but there are some exceptions. Yes to the Muppets, no to the Dark Crystal. I guess it is the uncanny valley effect. Story 11. The dark is such a bizarre phobia because realistically I know there is nothing there, but my brain freaks out. It is not gross or anything, just terrifying. Story 12. Dirty dishwater, like the dirty water left after washing dishes, especially if the water has changed color or has bits of food floating in it. Just the thought of it makes me want to vomit. If the water drains out and there are bits of food and dirt stuck together in the drain cover, I immediately gag. It is not so much the sight, but the moment I look at it, my mind thinks, what if you took that, dumped it in your mouth and tried to swallow it? That thought literally makes me gag. I am gagging just typing this. I do not know why, but despite the fact that I hate it, this is the first thing my brain thinks of when I see dirty water. Story 13. Throwing up scares me. I panic when I feel the slightest bit of nausea because I hate the feeling so much. I will do everything I can to avoid throwing up when I am sick. I know it is better to let your body get rid of things, but I absolutely freak out and feel like I will die and that the feeling will never stop. Even though I know from many experiences that I usually feel better afterward. Story 14. People who are intolerant of other cultures and the Dutch. Story 15. Hotel rooms, no matter how nice or clean they look, make me very anxious. Story 16. I am disgusted by people who make noise while chewing their food. Story 17. Cold sores are extremely common and not very serious. Yet the fear of them made me nearly agoraphobic and caused panic attacks for several months, during which I performed ritualistic cleaning behaviors to self-soothe. Yes, I am in therapy now. Story 18. I am afraid of clowns. It started when my mother hired a clown for my 7th birthday party. I know it is an irrational fear, but there is just something terrifying about the crazy hair, the makeup, the baggy pants, and the oversized shoes. Story 19. Seeing any form of fluid or anything coming out of a baby's mouth, nose, or any part of them is one of the reasons I never want children. If I do have children, it will be difficult to convince my wife to handle everything medically and with cleaning related to our child. I know this sounds absurd, disrespectful, and childish, but I really cannot handle it. It is very unpleasant and honestly makes me a little angry when I see it. Story 20. When people walk behind me, it is especially bad in restaurants when I cannot have my back to the wall or while trick-or-treating with my child. Chaperoning the school dance was also an absolute nightmare. Story 21. House centipedes are the little fuzzy creatures that lurk in North American basements. I am fine with spiders, bugs, and other creepy crawlies. I know that centipedes are harmless to humans, at least those in the northern United States, and that they eat other unpleasant insects. But they are so fast and have entirely too many legs. Too many legs. I almost cried when I found one under my office desk last week. Story 22. Balloons are so fragile. One minute they are there, bringing children joy. The next they are gone. It makes me think about my own mortality. Story 23. Scraping ice in the winter is unpleasant for me. When I have to scrape the ice off my car, I cringe. It does not make sense, but it makes my teeth hurt. It is similar to the sound of nails on a chalkboard. I also dislike popsicles. Story 24. The feeling of cardboard against my bare skin is just like the wrong kind of friction, and I start freaking out. Story 25. Married individuals with significant age differences, even when both are consenting adults. Story 26. Raw chicken. When salad greens get a little old in the refrigerator and you have to pick out the wilted, slimy pieces, I gag. Story 27. Anyone with a loud voice or who is being loud cannot be around it. Story 28. Childbirth. Maybe irrational is not accurate, as millions of women still die from it every year. But it is definitely something ordinary and natural that I have nevertheless been disgusted and terrified of since I was a kid. Story 29. Birds. I was bitten by an emu at a petting zoo when I was 5. To this day, now that I am 28, when I go to the pet store to get food and cat litter, I walk on the opposite side of the store from where the birds are. I was on a class trip to New York in my junior year of high school, and while we were walking down the street, a pigeon flew right by my head, so close that I could feel the air from its wings beating. I screamed, dropped to the ground, and started sobbing. It was embarrassing. Story 30. Corn. I hate corn so much. It makes me sick just to write this. Yuck. Story 31. I am not a fan of chalky textures. There is something about them that just feels unsettling to me. Story 32. When someone cuts their nails, I find it disgusting if they do it on the floor. My husband's family uses a pillow to catch the fallen nails and then throws them out. I always feel like throwing up. Story 33. Turning left. I T-boned a car turning out of a parking lot when I was 17. I have hated turning left without a green arrow ever since. Story 34. Fupas in skin color leggings make me extremely uncomfortable. Lizards, flaky face and ear skin, and online discussions about inappropriate topics related to animals are disturbing. Story 35. That mush in the sink drain after you finish washing the dishes. Ugh, no, I can't stand it. It gives me a shiver just thinking about it. Story 36. Things without limbs, such as eels, snakes, slugs, and worms, just wriggling around, creeps me out. Paraplegic people, not at all. Also, animals walking backwards. It is unnatural and creepy. Story 37. The Miley Cyrus song Flowers was all over social media in early 2023. I liked it until I had to go to hospital in a city far from home for major cancer surgery. I believe the song was playing on the radio during my taxi ride to the hospital. I was extremely anxious because the surgery had a high mortality rate, and I knew my life would be changed forever as a result. I did not realize I had an issue with the song until several weeks after being discharged from hospital, where I stayed for over 2 months. I was in a supermarket when the song came on. I felt sick and started shaking. I had to abandon my shopping cart and wait outside the store until the song stopped. If I hear it while scrolling through social media apps, I immediately exit to avoid it. I did not realize a song could trigger post-traumatic stress disorder, but I believe it can. Story 38. Food smell after sitting in a cafe or restaurant. I can smell it on me for hours afterward and usually have to shower as soon as I get home. Story 39. Frogs. Do you want to see a 6'2", 280-pound bearded and tattooed man scream and run like a girl? Then put a frog in the room with me. Story 40. Extremely long nails make me feel nauseous for some reason. Story 41. Ostriches are very scary up close. Their big eyes size you up, they stand a few feet taller than you, and they are the fastest birds on land. Story 42. Horseradish. I literally have a phobia of it when I touch it. Story 43. I am extremely uncomfortable with the feeling of freshly washed and dried jeans on my hands, specifically the really rough men's work pants. I dislike it so much that I experience sensory discomfort for several hours after touching them. Story 44. Chewing gum. I am disgusted by it to a degree I cannot explain. Story 45. Stairs? I could break my neck all the time if my brain forgets how to take a step. Story 46. I am not obsessive-compulsive disorder, but I really hate having dirty hands. Apparently, I have always been this way. My mother tells the story of preschool when the teachers told her, "We did finger painting today, but he refused. We gave him a sponge to paint with. My wife used to write notes in pen on the back of her hand. I made her stop before we got married. It made me gag a bit." Story 47. Empty store shelves with metal holders sticking out. It hurts my eyes to walk past them because it feels like they are poking my eyes. Story 48. When I find a skin-like substance in what is supposed to be a liquid. Story 49. Scroll past the 50 top comments to get actual irrational ones. Hope this helps. Story 50. New disgust unlocked this week. Someone picking a bug up from the floor with a tissue and then squeezing it to kill it. Like that is psychotic. Story 51. A very specific texture of photo paper, not quite smooth, slightly sticky and squeaky. It gives me awful chills if I ever accidentally touch it. Story 52. The texture of magazines and styrofoam makes me retch, and I want to throw up whenever I feel or hear either one. Story 53. Birds. I have been attacked by them a statistically improbable number of times, with quite a few of the attacks occurring during my childhood. I am genuinely afraid of them now. Story 54. Tall people. I am terrified of them. Anyone over 5 feet 11 inches is terrifying. Story 55. The sound of shotguns firing. I went to a shooting range because I had never been there before, and I jumped out of my skin many times. Story 56. Crabs. I hate all kinds of crabs. They scare me a lot. Lobsters are fine. Story 57. Stepping into the shower right after I wake up feels terrible. A total sensory overload. Story 58. Nail files. I cannot stand the feeling of them when they are close to my skin, but overall, they are unpleasant. I can use the nail grinders, though, for a manicure. Story 59. I dislike toothpaste and watching people brush their teeth. Story 60. Coming into contact with other people's hair makes me uncomfortable. If there is a hair in my food, I go into full-blown panic. If there is a stray hair on me, I also panic. Sometimes I am a little grossed out by my own hair. It depends. Story 61. Nail polish, especially if it is long or brightly colored, grosses me out every time. Story 62. Irrationally terrified of sudden loud noises and going down escalators but not up, and irrationally disgusted by touching wet laundry. Story 63. Hearing or seeing other people brushing their teeth makes my skin crawl. I always have to close a door or go somewhere else so I do not have to hear it. Story 64. The sound of someone with dentures chewing. I want to beat someone when I hear it. It literally makes my veins hurt. Story 65. My house caught on fire. I had a house fire in 2006 while I was inside and barely escaped with the clothes on my back. I definitely have post-traumatic stress disorder from the experience. Story 66. Disgusted by anything sexual, including kissing. Terrified of escalators and hot air balloons. Story 67. The burners on an electric stove. I feel uncomfortable when I touch them to move them to clean underneath. Story 68. Cotton wool and people putting wool, such as jumpers, in their mouths. Just the thought while writing that has made my teeth feel weird. Story 69. Terrifying. Clowns. Puppets, including marionettes and ventriloquist dummies, are particularly terrifying. Monkeys and apes. Story 70. Cardboard rubbing on other cardboard, like when you have to assemble a box and it makes that dry, squeaky sound, It makes my teeth hurt. Story 71. The feeling of fleece or cotton balls on your hands and nails getting caught on cotton balls and fleece is unpleasant. Also, the feeling and sound of dry, calloused hands on unprocessed wooden planks when they are dry and have splinters is uncomfortable. The sound of dry hands on paper is also unpleasant. When it is my own dry hands, the feeling is uncomfortable but manageable. I have many sensory issues, but these are particularly annoying. Story 72. Some sounds include chewing, whistling, humming, pen clicking, and autonomous sensory meridian response nail tapping. Story 73. Chewing on something cottony creates one of the most disgusting and odd sensations on your teeth and tongue. It is similar to the unpleasant sound of nails on a chalkboard, but as if you could eat it. Story 74. I absolutely hate needles. Whenever I have to get blood work or a shot, I have to tell the person doing it to have a trash can next to me because I will throw up afterward. Yes, I'm fine with needles now, but I still can't watch the needle go into my vein or arm because I start clenching my arm until I end up with a small bruise. One time, when I was in the emergency room for a psychiatric evaluation, they did blood work. I told the nurse drawing my blood that I would look away, but she could not count down before inserting the needle because it would make me clench my arm prematurely. I also told her she might want to have something ready for me to vomit in. Once the needle is in, I can watch the blood go into the vial, but I cannot watch the needle puncture my skin. The difficult part is they can only use the vein in my left arm because it is the only viable one. My right arm has a vein, but it doesn't become prominent enough for a needle, so they have to use my left arm repeatedly. Even if I don't clench my arm, I still end up with a bruise from blood work because they most likely insert the needle improperly. Story 75. Wet fruit. I do not touch it because of a sensory issue, which is not irrational. However, I cannot look at orange peel, banana skins, or apple cores without wanting to vomit. Story 76. Human sweat and associated body odor. This is why I cannot do team sports or work out in gyms with other people around. One whiff of most other people's aromas makes me feel like vomiting. So I am forced to exercise in natural or open areas where there are fewer such scents, or even run in the rain so the raindrops cover them. But somehow, if I am attracted to a particular woman, I am not put off by her sweaty odors. There is something unusual going on in my head. Story 77. I do not know how to describe it, but when people shave and have stubble a few days later, it does not make me judge them. It just makes me feel strangely disgusted, as if the hair is growing thickly through the skin again. Story 78. Styrofoam. Touching it, the noise it makes when it squeaks against itself. I hate it. It feels like a combination of nails on a chalkboard and smelling something nasty, even though it does not have a smell. I will not get takeout from restaurants that use it. Story 79. Styrofoam. Touching it, hearing it, just knowing it is nearby, freaks me out. I know it is dumb, but I cannot help it. Story 80. My navel being touched makes me want to die every time. It makes me want to throw up, and my heart rate increases just typing this. And yes, I wash myself. That does not count. Story 81. Sound of styrofoam rubbing against each other. And snakes, what do you mean an organism with no legs just slithers its way through life? Slimy. Story 82. Being poked. Do not poke me, I will break your fingers. Story 83. Men with buns. Long tails are all right, but most of the time it is that gross bun. Such a distasteful hairstyle. I really have to puke seeing it. Please no hair buns on guys. Pistol shot before elastic band on your head. Please. I find it pukingly disgusting. Story 84. The filters that make your eyes huge in pictures and videos make me itch. Story 85. Holes. Like when you punched holes in a chunk of clay with your pencil in elementary school. It makes me very uncomfortable and queasy. Story 86. Vomit. I vividly remember a spot where I saw vomit that I will never forget. A parking lot behind the pizza restaurant, the curbside at the mall, and the bathroom floor in second grade. Story 87. Coworkers eating warm and very smelly meals at their desks, causing the entire office to smell of the food. Story 88. Vomit and eye injury of any type. You can put me in front of blood, guts, feces, urine, whatever, and I'll be fine. Someone's hand gets split in half? Ouch, but whatever. Soiled themselves violently? Gross, but it happens, I guess. Had their stomach cut deep and now their intestines are exposed in front of them? Yikes, but sure. I gets pierced, burned by hot slag, pulled out of the skull? Yeah, for the next several minutes until someone tells me it's off the screen, I'm averting my gaze. Someone is vomiting near me? I'll support you when you finish, but for now, I'm going to hang out somewhere else until you do, and I won't enter that room until it's clean, unless it's my room. I understand my responsibility. Story 89. Escalators can be especially stressful when you have a rolling suitcase at the airport. Story 90. Loose hair anywhere. In the shower, pulled out of clothes or towels, or just unattached hair. Story 91. Very long nails. I have to assume they cannot clean themselves properly. Story 92. People yelling with double negatives and other grammatical errors. Story 93. Pregnancy. I do not find pregnancy to be beautiful. I have never touched another woman's pregnant belly, and I have no interest in hearing about someone's birth story or birth plan. I will happily hold the baby once it is born, but the idea of pregnancy really freaks me out. It is no surprise that I have never been pregnant. Story 94. This is unusual, but gyms and stores open to the general public allow people to wear shoes inside that they also wore outside. They do not provide flip-flops or a second pair of shoes to change into. Story 95. Consuming plain water is something I do not do. It bothers me deeply. Story 96. Buttons. I immediately imagine choking on them. I have no idea why. Story 97. Technically, I have a phobia of bridges, but I am going with seafood since people are more confused about it. I have come around to certain American sushi, and my dad makes a great tuna ramen casserole that I can stomach if I can get past the smell that particular day. However, I do apologize, I cannot stand to even smell or look at most seafood, let alone consider eating it. Story 98. Frogs, toads, geckos, lizards. I do not fear snakes or spiders for some reason. Story 99. Metal silverware. The sound it makes against anything makes me want to rip my head off. Sensory issues are challenging. Honorable mention. Microfiber towels. Story 100. Cucumbers. I once walked in on my ex using a cucumber as a sexual object. Story 101. Baked tomatoes are soft and juicy, but they seem to lack flavor. What is wrong with them? Story 102. Being the first one to enter any door, such as a car, elevator, or room, when I am with someone, I need them to go first. Otherwise, I get shivers. I am okay going when alone. Littering is unpleasant. People chewing their nails in public is bothersome. Majorities making decisions for minorities is unfair. Story 103. Sudden loud bangs, such as a balloon popping. Story 104. Bristles, like on a toothbrush. It sounds dramatic, but in all seriousness, just the thought of biting down on them literally provokes a visceral disgust response. Story 105. Those very small toads that are about the size of your thumbnail. Story 106. Rayon fiber. I absolutely cannot wear anything made of rayon. I do not know why, but it feels unpleasant against my skin. Story 107. Tap water. Imagine all the unknowns it has been through since it was purified by the city. It also tastes bad. I have a good in-home filtration system, and the water comes out tasting like nothing. Story 108. Being barefoot. I don't know, I just can't have the skin on my feet touch the floor. Story 109. Using a gas station bathroom. Not the large truck stop type. The creepy ones off the interstate. They give me a psychological movie vibe. Story 110. Metal straws. It is just the texture that really makes me feel weird. Metal straws on teeth or on the bottom of a glass cup are like a fork scratching a chalkboard. Story 111. I am petrified of moths. It is a genuine phobia. Tiny ones I can catch in my hand or trap in a glass and release outside. I cannot sleep if I know there is a tiny moth in my house, but I can tolerate them mercifully. Large moths, however, give me extreme chills. For them, I have no mercy. I do not know what it is about them, but they do not remind me of an animal, and they do not move in a way I expect an animal to move. It is as if my brain stores moth in the same place it stores little ghost or little vampire. Story 112. Call me a clean freak, but getting my hands covered in my food is not acceptable. Story 113. Microfiber. This difficult material is one of the only normal things that makes me shudder violently. Story 114. Marriage means sharing life closely with one person, including all their habits, for a lifetime. Story 115. Plants in general, but specifically flowers, more specifically sunflowers. Story 116. Touching velvet or foam rubber gives me the nails on chalkboard feeling. Story 117. Telephones and drive-thrus like it is an actual phobia. Story 118. People using your instead of you are, or were instead of where or we are, or adding s to pluralize a word instead of correctly removing the y and adding ies. This is not irrational. Story 119. When I am lying in bed and my boyfriend touches my feet with his toenails, they are short but still it feels disgusting. Story 120. Community food gatherings, such as potlucks, raise concerns about hygiene. People sharing food can be unsanitary, with hands reaching into bags and touching utensils repeatedly. Picking at food brought by others from their homes or stores increases the risk of contamination. Food left out for hours is exposed to sticky and dirty fingers continuously touching it. Buffets have similar hygiene issues and are equally concerning. Story 121. Showerheads. For some reason, I am fine with my own shower, but I get anxious when I have to take a shower in a hotel or someone else's house. Story 122. Orange peels look like skin and make me cringe. Story 123. How common plastic is. A little part of me dies every time I throw a handful of plastic wrappers in the trash. And that is just my trash. Seeing the landfills get bigger over the years is quite startling. Story 124. People who have a lisp on the letter S make my skin crawl. Story 125. Three-pronged forks just don't seem right. I refuse to use them. Story 126. I am terrified of pool vents. It is not because of the horror stories, which are mostly myths. Throw me in a lake or the ocean and I am fine, but I do not like pool vents. Story 127. Anything to do with deceased individuals, such as cemeteries, funerals, and mortuaries, frightens me. When I know a funeral is upcoming, I have literal nightmares and cannot see any part of the body, or the nightmares will continue for weeks afterward. Story 128. Catchphrases. I cannot stand them in other people. I am also generally more annoyed and put off by repetition of words, but something about the added corniness of a catchphrase makes me want to punch the ceiling. Story 129. The way glasses feel after being cleaned in the dishwasher makes my skin crawl. I should probably just use a different soap, but I have not figured out what causes this. It is so horrible. Story 130. Mayonnaise. I don't just dislike it. I am disgusted by mayonnaise. Story 131. The tendons inside your wrist, the way they pop out, distend, and move around, make me quite literally want to vomit. Story 132. Anything chalky or clay-like terracotta, the sound and texture of it is just shudders. Story 133. Buttons. They are disgusting. I have always thought they were unpleasant, and to this day, at age 33, I refuse to wear anything that has buttons on it. I do not know what is wrong with me. They are gross. Story 134. Mashed bananas. I like them fine whole, but I recently made banana bread and almost vomited mashing them up. Slimy, oxidizing, sour-smelling grossness. Story 135. I do not know if this counts, but I find bowel movements to be disgusting. I guess they are supposed to be, but seriously, the whole process and a dirty anus are just beyond gross to me. Story 136. I will not share drinks. My drink is my drink. If you want some Dr. Pepper, grab a can from the fridge. Germs, you know? Story 137. Long false fingernails. I do not know why, but they absolutely give me the ick. Story 138. I am disgusted by feet. I am terrified of bees and wasps. Story 139. I hate the sound of people filing their nails. It is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Story 140. Butter is totally vile and disgusting. I do not have any in the house. Story 141. The inside seat on a bus, especially when it rains. I would get off the bus. Story 142. Overly happy or cheerful people. I cannot. I think they are overcompensating or hiding something behind that extra cheerfulness. This is not to be confused with positive people. And very pale children. Not those with vitiligo, as I understand that is a medical condition, but very blonde, almost white hair, and pale-skinned children. They scare me. I do not know why. Story 143. Long, elaborately painted, and decorated fingernails on women. Why are you walking around with these bacteria collectors? A woman at a Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru the other day handed me my coffee, and her fingernails grazed my hand. I almost vomited right there. Story 144. I dislike and genuinely feel secondhand embarrassment for people who change when someone else comes around and begins to act completely differently. Story 145. Overflowing toilets or tubs. Water where it should not be. When that water reaches the brim, I go into complete panic mode. Story 146. Spitting. I can handle blood, vomit, broken bones, and so on. Watching someone hawk a loogie makes me nauseated. It is revolting and just plain rude. Story 147. Anything that flies. Birds, butterflies, mosquitoes, gnats, anything that flies. Story 148. Brittle nails accidentally scratching the table or chalkboard. Story 149. Gum. I do not chew gum, and even being around someone who is discreetly chewing gum makes my stomach turn. I do not know why. It is just the most disgusting thing in the world. Story 150. You know when you are getting tested for streptococcal infection and they hold your tongue down with a popsicle stick and swab the back of your throat? I simply can't handle it. I know that no one really likes to have that type of test done, but for me, I have to tell the doctor that I need to sit on my hands and cross my legs because my knee-jerk reaction is very severe. I usually end up crying by the end of it. I hate the idea of throwing up, and I know that in my mind, the feeling of having my throat swabbed without my control gives me the same sensation. While I know this isn't necessarily an ordinary response, I am still completely terrified by it and will try to avoid it as much as possible. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.